Okay, everyone, welcome to the Purpose Revolution Call Series, a live video Google Hangout where we talk about purpose and all of its context, all the different ways that purpose affects our life and our world and our planet and our species. So today, I'm very excited for our very first guest, Dr. Gleb Tsipursky, who is the author of Find Your Purpose Using Science. So he's going to help us understand what science is telling us about the journey within. He's going to share with us 3 powerful strategies based in science to find your life's purpose. But before we meet Gleb, I just want to give you guys some broader context about what it is that this call is and what the larger kind of purpose discussion is about. So the Purpose Revolution Call Series is one of 4 strategies or 4 tactics of the planetpurpose.org movement. So it's a global purpose movement that, like I said, has 4 tactics. The first is the Declaration of Purpose, which asks the question, what would our species look like if everybody knew their purpose? So how would we cooperate economically, ecologically, politically, socially if everyone was fully turned on and knew their life's purpose? So that's the first piece. The second is in August, Global Purpose Month, we're launching the 21-Day Purpose Challenge, which is a free purpose discovery program that allows you to do a short exercise every day for 21 days and to live in deeper relationship to your life's purpose, and then to create the skills to be able to overcome obstacles, communicate your purpose, and then take your purpose out into the world. The third piece is the Purpose Revolution book, which is going to come out in later this fall. And obviously the fourth piece is this, the Purpose Revolution Call Series, where we start to unpack a lot of these taboos and these kind of juicy subjects around politics and gender and race and sexuality and democracy and social justice, all the things that are related, like the contextual milieu of living a life of purpose and creating a planet of purpose. So with that, I would like to welcome our first guest. Actually, before we do that, this is an interactive video chat. So you're able to put your Q&A in the chat box here on the right, as well as on the Facebook group. So if you found out about this through Facebook, there's a post that says, go ahead and type in your questions. So if at any point a question comes up, just let us know. We'll try to get to it right then. If not, we'll get to it at the Q&A section. So we're targeting for about 40 minutes of back and forth between Gleb and I, and then at the end of that, there'll be an opportunity to have your questions answered. So please stick around for that, and you can get direct response from one of the world's foremost experts on science and purpose, Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. So I'd like to welcome Gleb to the show. Gleb is an assistant professor at The Ohio State University. He's also an author. He's got a book called Find Your Purpose Using Science. And I'm very excited about that because that's an area of mutual interest for both of us, because science is just exploding with not only the benefits of purpose, but actually proven technologies and methods to find it. And Gleb's going to talk to us a little bit about that. He's also the president and co-founder of Intentional Insights that helps people live in deeper alignment to modify and explore their own consciousness as they do their jobs and take their purpose out into the world. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Gleb Tsipursky to the show. Gleb, welcome.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I really appreciate it. I need to do a great job of pronouncing my name. I appreciate it. Not everyone does that well.
Well, my pleasure. It's an honor to pronounce your name well.
Thank
so
you.
Gleb, what I'd like to do before we get into a lot of the nitty-gritty science of it, I want people to just kind of learn a little bit more about you and why you care about this. So I've got a couple questions in that vein.
Sure.
So the first is, what is your life's purpose and how did you find it?
Okay. So let me share first my life's purpose. So my life's purpose is to live a life of happiness, fulfillment, and flourishing. That is what my life's purpose is. And what does that mean? Those are kind of big, vague, complex terms. So in order to fine-grain that and actually ground it in everyday life, let me unpack each of those for you. So happiness for me is this sort of systemic sense that I am having enjoyable, if moderate, stimuli and things around me throughout my life. So just getting enjoyment, getting pleasure out of life, that sort of happiness, and knowing that it's a regular systemic thing that will keep going throughout my life. So that is really important. That's one. The second for me, so number two, is fulfillment. And that is a really deep one that's about living my values, fulfilling my values. So my personal belief system. And that's my values toward myself. So having integrity and consistency with myself, with who I am as a human being. And then my values toward people close to me. I really care about people close to me, people who are in my social circle. I really care about them. And I want to engage with my values around them and help them have better lives. And finally, living my values toward the broader community, toward people out in the world, and engaging with them and helping them have better lives and find their purpose and develop, improve themselves so that they can have the best life possible, which leads to flourishing. And flourishing, for me, is just experiencing a sense of wellness, a satisfaction in all of my life areas, and a sense that they are growing and they're developing and they're progressing, and that I'm growing as a human being throughout life. And for me, my life areas include myself, so everything around myself, then my life partnership with the love of my life, my wife, Agnes Vishnievkin, who is also the co-founder of Intentional Insights and the vice president. And then the third one is my social circle. So as I mentioned, the people who are close to me. The fourth one is my professional area. So just the work that I do, the helping, the professional work that I do at Ohio State University at Intentional Insights. And finally, civic engagement, so community engagement, and making sure that I create a better world for my local community and the broader community throughout my life. So that, for me, is what defines my life's purpose: happiness, fulfillment, and flourishing.
Happiness, fulfillment, and flourishing. I like that. So what I'm understanding from you, it's like a qualified state of being. Does that sound right? It's like you're aware that you're on purpose as you kind of experience it in your body, in your own consciousness. Is that right?
Yes. So I check with myself every morning whether I am living a life of happiness, fulfillment, and flourishing. So I do meditations every morning, and one of my meditations is centered around ensuring that I engage in happiness, fulfillment, and flourishing, and seeing what aspects of my life are not quite aligned with that purpose and making sure that they align. So working to make them align, and also improving the way they align to serve that purpose. And so, yes, and meditation is one of the science-based strategies that I'll talk about a little later in the program.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Gleb. So this concept, this feeling of purpose, how did you come to it? Did you use these same strategies that are in the book, or was it just kind of like, oh wow, I think this is it, and then I'm going to try to refine it with some science, or what was your path to knowing what your life's purpose was?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Brandon, and one that we should consider deeply for everyone. So when I was young, my teenage years, I really felt a lack of purpose, like that sense of emptiness, that meaninglessness, kind of deep in the pit of my stomach, and that really hurt. It was really, I remember staying up, late into the night, kind of wondering, why am I here? What am I doing? What is this life about? Like, what does it mean? And I talked about that with my friends, and my parents tried to tell me their life purpose and that I should go and make a lot of money and be wealthy and whatnot, but that just wasn't for me. I wouldn't have gone and become a professor if it was for me. Doesn't pay too much. But so I decided that I didn't want to go that route. So when I went to high school and college, I read the great books, what they talked about, how to find a sense of purpose. And I was left with more questions than answers, to be honest. There are just so many different opinions. And there's a lot of literature out there about how to find purpose, but there's just so many ways and so many different takes on this question. And so I turned to the source eventually. As I discovered the science and meaning and purpose, I turned to this source. I turned to the science, because science is really the most effective way that human beings have discovered on how to find truth, on how to find what is most likely to be true. And I love the fact that science updates itself, that it can reverse itself, that over time we make new discoveries and we can move closer and know more. And so science is really the best and most effective means that humans have learned how to discover what is most likely to be true. And then I realized that, I can find my sense of purpose if I study the science and the history behind purpose. So that's kind of what was a really motivating factor for me to go into my line of research. And professionally, I'm a historian of science. So I study the intersection of history, psychology, cognitive neuroscience in various historical contexts. I specialize in the main alternative model to the United States that was there in the 20th century, which is the Soviet Union. Because I really wanted to get a different perspective on how people in another society, an equally modern one in many ways, but a really different one than the United States, found their purpose. And so I applied these research-based strategies. I applied the research that we know about how people find their purpose to the context of the Soviet Union, and specifically studying meaning and purpose and decision-making, emotions, all of these psychological questions. And that study helped me develop my own sense of purpose. So in combination with studying the science and the history, I developed my own sense of purpose through learning more about the research and really practicing it. It was a very combination-driven the self-discovery process. And then, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. So then, after I graduated and I became a college professor, I started to teach students about it. I started to teach students about Soviet history, including how people in the Soviet Union found meaning and purpose. And I found that really spoke to them, but really spoke to the college students, and they really gained much more from my classes than they did from many other classes that they took, because I talked about the science and the research and practical strategies for finding one's meaning and purpose. And that really inspired me to bring this message to a broader world. Just teaching that to kids, to, not kids, but teenagers, and seeing them grow and blossom, it was wonderful. And that's what really motivated me to, to write this book, Find Your Purpose Using Science, and to start Intentional Insights, which is dedicated to helping people refine and reach their goals through providing research-based strategies to improve their thinking, feeling, and behavior patterns. And actually, running Intentional Insights is one of the strategies that I do to help myself cultivate that meaning and purpose as my civic engagement activity. And that's something I'll talk about later in the program as a really crucial way of finding meaning and purpose in life.
Great.
So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. I just want to commend you for having like a truly global perspective, because so much of this purpose conversation is Northern California, like for the whole planet. It's like I walk down the street here in Berkeley and I bump into like people who are doing purpose work, life coaching, purpose discovery work, research, shamanic journal. It's important that we have these epicenters, but it's also important to get the diversity, and that you have a scientific approach and experience working across cultures. I think that is so important, and informs your perspective and your work. So kudos.
Thank you. And that's why I'm really happy to collaborate with planetpurpose.org with the project. I mean, I'm happy to be one of the co-authors of the Purpose Manifesto and the science advisor for Planet Purpose. I think you do wonderful work, and I'm happy to volunteer my time and efforts to support your work as well. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. So Gleb is also a colleague and someone who's helping us shape what this purpose revolution is. So he's helping author that or co-author that declaration of purpose. The existing draft is up on the site, and he's going to be a featured teacher in the 21-day purpose challenge, and he's stepped in as a science advisor for the Planet Purpose. So he's a man of many talents and capacities, and it definitely brings this kind of global mission and vision to it. So let's get into the science. I know that we need to we want to give folks an idea of how science can play in this historically not very scientific world. So let me first ask you, can science be used to answer life's big questions?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a question that many people ask me when they hear first about the science of meaning and purpose. I mean, the traditional approach to finding meaning and purpose is based on cultural heritage, religion, things like that. That's the traditional sources that people draw meaning and purpose from, in the United States at least. And something I found from looking at other contexts, so I looked at the Soviet Union, which is much more of a secular society, was that people found meaning and purpose not through their cultural tradition and not through religious contexts, but through other means. And once I looked at that and I looked at the science behind how one finds meaning and purpose, I realized that it was just a historical accident that because of the prevalence of religion in the United States, that religion provides such an important source for people finding meaning and purpose in their lives. And here's the reason. One of the really crucial things that the science on meaning and purpose finds is that meaning and purpose, one of the three fundamental strategies, is found through community and social bonds. And community and social bonds in the United States center mainly around religious communities, churches, congregations, and so on. However, in the Soviet Union, they don't. And what my research focused on in the Soviet Union are these cultural and community centers called clubs, where basically people got together to volunteer together to do studying of various sorts, to do various cultural, musical activities, perform, and have social bonds. And that was a major center of people finding meaning and purpose in the Soviet Union. So we see that religion as such is not necessary to find meaning and purpose. It is about the community. One can definitely find meaning and purpose in a religious community, but one can just as well find it in a non-religious community. And that's one reason why there have been so many secular-oriented groups springing up recently, such as Sunday Assembly, Unitarian Universalist Humanist Association, Secular Student Alliance groups, and so on, many around. So this is a really, really important strategy, and we can go deeper into it. But that is one clear indication that science and meaning and purpose can help us answer life's big questions by actually looking at what specifically helps us get meaning and purpose in life.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think it's important, and I think there definitely is. There are definitely some tried and true methods that are kind of coupled with a lot of religions and practices, like ayahuasca and prayer and meditation, and even this idea of like kind of karma yoga, of like kind of being of service to others. And I totally agree that there are definitely some scientific pieces of that, meaning that this idea of community is it doesn't necessarily need to be religiously oriented. And that there's actually a number of things that historically religion has been the kind of one answer to everything. And for all of those kind of requirements, like purpose, like ethics, we've kind of proven that you don't need to be part of a religion to have community, purpose, and ethics. You're going to share with us some scientific methods on purpose, but we've also found that ethics, a lot of philosophers have demonstrated, from Spinoza to Buber to Kant, that you can actually be a very ethical person without religion. It's obviously a really kind of quick and dirty solution to say, yeah, I'm religious and therefore I'm going to adhere to this code of conduct, but it's not necessary. It's decoupled in a lot of ways. So what your work is another really important piece of that, because yes, you can get community elsewhere. Yes, you can get ethics elsewhere, and now we're finding that you can get purpose elsewhere. So how does the scientific community, or how do you define purpose? Because everything needs a name, and everything needs to have specific words to it in the realm of science. So, what do you mean when you say purpose?
Sure, I think that's a really important question. So the scientific community generally defines purpose as the broad overarching aspiration that drives our everyday activities. So whatever broad overarching aspirations, goals we have, aspirations, goals, aims, call it what you want, that help motivate us in everyday life to live our lives as we do. That is what the scientific community defines as a sense of purpose, and that is what it measures in scientific studies that ask about questions of meaning and purpose and evaluate its health and well-being benefits, which we can go into as well. So that is the scientific definition given by researchers on meaning and purpose.
Awesome. So what is science finding? What is science uncovering about people or groups that have a strong connection to their life's purpose? Like what are the benefits of cultivating it? Like what happens when we do it?
I think it's a really important question, and there are basically two huge benefits, and that's mental health and well-being and physical health and well-being. So those are the two big components. Of course, they're all part of the broader component of health, but we generally, in the common language, public sphere, tend to separate those. So there has been a lot of research showing that mental health and well-being is very much benefited by a sense of purpose. So people with a sense of purpose are much less likely to have depression. They're much less likely to experience anxiety. They are much more likely to experience satisfaction on a daily level with their lives. They are also more likely to experience what they describe as happiness, although happiness and purpose are not the same things. One can be happy without having purpose, and one can have purpose without being happy. And an example of that is the research by the classical scholar on purpose, Viktor Frankl. And he actually was a survivor of the Holocaust concentration camps, and he studied people in the concentration camps and afterward. And he found that people in the concentration camps who had a sense of purpose, who felt that their life had that broad aspiration that they wanted to live for, were much more able to survive and even thrive in the camps than people who did not. So that was a clear example of that finding. There has been much recent research that shows this. For example, Michael Steger has a lot of research on the health and well-being benefits, mental health and well-being benefits of living with purpose, including even such findings that adolescents who engage with their purpose are much less likely to engage in risky behavior. So various drugs, all that problematic stuff. And that's another example of how the mental health benefits of meaning and purpose. Now that's one. The second area is physical health and well-being benefits. And that's really crucial as well. There's been research showing that meaning and purpose helps people deal with Alzheimer's disease. You wouldn't think it's a degenerative disease, but people with a sense of purpose are quite a bit less likely to be hit by Alzheimer's. They also have a much better chance of avoiding stroke and avoiding heart attacks. And Eric Kim has done a lot of research on that and some really great stuff. So there's a lot of research also on the connection of purpose.
So it looks like we lost Gleb. He should be back here in a second. I'm going to try to invite him again, so bear with us. See where he's at. Oh, there he is. Yeah. Are you still there, Gleb?
Okay. Yes, I'm still there. So,
okay,
so
all
last
right.
I was
Please
saying
continue.
was that, yes, so there's a lot of research showing that a sense of purpose is strongly impactful for our mind, heart, and gut. So all of those areas are very strongly related to having a sense of purpose. And I'm actually conducting a research study right now with another member of Intentional Insights, Joe Guara, who's a professor of social work at Ohio State University. And we are conducting a study together on the health outcomes of meaning and purpose, and coupled with using the Find Your Purpose Using Science book as an intervention mechanism to help people gain a richer sense of meaning and purpose in life.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, and Gleb, that's my experience too. Like I mean, the way I hold it, just because I have come from this technology startup background, is that it's like upgrading your operating system, or like it's this kind of that piece of you that you get to control, and that piece also starts to control your physical reality. It starts to give you more motivation to treat yourself well, to eat better food, to work out, just to make kind of more sensible decisions, because you don't view your life as the amusement park / trash dump that I think, at least I did before I found my life's purpose. I was like, girls and drugs and sex, and I treated myself terribly. But then as soon as I developed a close relationship with purpose, I started making all sorts of better decisions. Like started doing more yoga, started eating more vegetables, started drinking less, started doing all sorts of things that were in service of me living another day to live my purpose. Because for me, it's like a personal religion. It is that whole thing that just kind of unites every aspect of my existence, and it shows up in every aspect. And the science is proving it. They're like you said, better heart, better mind. You're living longer. It's been correlated with more fulfilling and rewarding careers, more abundant careers, more profitable businesses. People have more kind of philanthropic or kind of civic engagement when they know their life's purpose. Then we've witnessed this whole explosion of kind of business, actually, social enterprises begin to embody this purpose, where people are not kind of turning their heart off when they go to work. They're actually kind of bringing their full selves to work and saying, this is the kind of change I'm committed to, and I don't want to be a jerk to my customer or to my employee or whatever. Like they're bringing their purpose, their personal ethics, and it's literally transforming every part of society. And I think you and I are just kind of right here, almost at the beginning of it, where we're starting to see the transformative power of this. I'm just going to call it a wonder drug. When folks start to develop a rich relationship with it, it literally transforms everything and just has the potential to radically reshape our species. So I just want to thank you for sharing that. The scientific research behind it. I'm sure if folks want to learn more about the science, where should they go? Intentionalinsights.org or
intentionalinsights.org for the organization itself, and just go to Amazon and type in "Find Your Purpose Using Science" for the book itself.
The book. Oh, great.
Yeah. I actually wanted to touch on the subject that you just brought up of businesses, because that segues nicely into one of the large chapters in my book about how you can find purpose in the workplace, find your purpose in the workplace.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's basically, there has been quite a lot of research on meaningful work, on purposeful work, on how we find purpose in the workplace. And a lot of folks think that finding purpose in the workplace is about finding your passion. That's the typical phrase used when we talk about, finding purpose in one's workplace. And it's great work when you can get it, when you can get work that really fills you with passion and fills you that sense of purpose. But it's rare. It's a rare person who can have that opportunity. And what the research on purpose in the workplace shows is that one can actually create a more purposeful workplace for oneself, so as an individual, and companies can create a more purposeful workplace for their employees. So both on an individual department level and on a company-wide level. And that relates to the three broad strategies for finding meaning and purpose.
Yeah,
And
what are they?
go into this. Yeah, sure. So three broad strategies. And one strategy is self-reflection. Self-reflection on one's goals and aspirations and how they connect to one's everyday life activities. And you can derive that from the broader scientific definition of meaning and purpose, which is to have that driving goal orientation, that aspiration that motivates your everyday activities. And my book goes in depth into research-based strategies on how to actually develop that broad aspiration and how to connect it to your everyday life. So that's one. And how that can be used by people in the workplace is basically by examining, so from an individual perspective, by examining why they're at work. You know, so many people just go to work just because they feel they have to go to work, and they don't really think about all the reasons, all the motivations. What is the broader driving motivation for them to go to work? Do you go to work because you want security? Do you want to go to work because you want to take care of your family? Do you go to work because you want to have money to have vacations? You know, why motivates you? Do you want to go to work because you want just, stability and routine in your life, or you want the social company of the workplace? So reflecting on the broad aspirations that drive you to go to work and connecting that to your everyday activities at work is a research-based strategy for finding purpose in the workplace. And so, companies, yes.
I just want to ask you a quick question on that. So what does that look like? Does that look like somebody journaling for 5 minutes on why I work, or what do you mean by that?
Right. Sure. So something I describe in the book, journaling is the key strategy here. So sitting down, reflecting on what are the broad aspirations that drive you to go to work, journaling about those aspirations, and then connecting that journaling about the connection between those aspirations and your everyday activities at work and connecting those, and having that all be in front of you. And then every time that there's a flagging of a sense of purpose in the workplace, going back to that list, revisiting it. Is it because you forgot what your purpose was in the workplace? Or it might be because there was a change. Maybe your broad aspirations are shifting, or maybe your work is shifting. That's a real time to reevaluate your aspirations in the workplace and what you're doing and why you're doing it. Sometimes you may discover that you're actually not serving your purpose by working in that specific job. And you might want to consider changing the job to suit you more, or maybe finding another job if that's a position you're capable of doing, you're capable of being in. So that the main thing is to align your broad aspirations with your career goals and why you're doing that through journaling and revisiting this question occasionally. And I have work exercises, worksheets in the workbook to help you do that. Companies can help their employees do the same thing. They can hold group sessions where employees and employers, their bosses, their managers, discuss the question of the company's broad goals, of the employees' specific goals, and how those broad goals of the company align with the employees' goals. So that is a research-based method that companies like Southwest Airlines and Tom's of Maine, which are really in the front lines of helping their employees find purpose and meaning, use to help achieve that goal. So that's one broad strategy, journaling. And the reflection. Now, another aspect of self-reflection is meditation. So meditation is a really great strategy. So visualizing, now what that would look like, just a brief example, is visualizing what it would feel like to be filled with a sense of meaning and purpose. And sitting down and meditating on that, letting that ring through your body, your very core, and then going through that process, sitting with that sense of meaning and purpose in your life, and then leaving that space and figuring out what associations you had while you were in that space. And that would help you figure out your own sense of meaning and purpose. And again, much more in the workbook about that process. So that's self-reflection.
Great, great. What are the other two, Gleb?
So the other two are building community bonds. So we talked about that as a really crucial strategy for finding meaning and purpose in life. So we're talking about work as one way of doing so. And certainly you can build community bonds in your workplace. So finding times to chat with others over lunch, for example, so building that social connections, finding time to engage with people in social interactions, not only professional interactions, to help yourself find those bonds. Then finding community bonds outside of the workplace. So we talked about religious group congregations, and that's definitely one way that many people find a sense of purpose. And non-religious groups, such as secular groups and so on, Sunday assemblies we mentioned, but also plenty of other groups like clubs, so various sort of civic clubs or community centers. Those can all be sources of community bonding for people, and finding that sense of community bonding is really important. And again, companies can also provide that for employees by creating spaces and encouraging employees to interact socially with each other, to build their sort of social bonds together. So that's another way of finding purpose.
Great. And the third one?
Okay, and the third one is civic engagement. So various sorts and civic engagement, by what I mean by that, is serving others in some capacity. So finding some ways of serving others, there's been a lot of research showing that that contributes highly to a sense of meaning and purpose in life. So just figuring out ways that specifically speak to you yourself in serving others. Now, serving others can mean serving your family, and that's one way of doing it. And that's one way that a lot of people find purpose. Generally, the science has shown that the broader, the more external our services, the more externally oriented it is, the more purpose we find in it. So if you can find ways to serve others beyond your social circle, so engaging in various volunteer activities, maybe volunteering in a soup kitchen somewhere, maybe volunteering in a homeless shelter, or volunteering to bring your skills and expertise somewhere. So doing that for free. Then various, or the kind of work that you and I do of helping others find purpose in their lives, that's a very important volunteering activity. Then, of course, various sorts of philanthropy. So charity is a really important way that a lot of people find purpose. And all sorts of charity out there. I want to mention that there's been a recent movement called effective altruism, which is specifically a research-based, data-driven way of evaluating charity options. And that's kind of an evidence-based strategy. So you can be very confident that the charities they choose are going to be really high-quality ones. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. And then, as part of that engagement, political engagement. So there's research showing that political engagement is also helpful for finding meaning and purpose. So being active in politics, local level politics, broader politics, and serving your community through that way, serving others in that way, is another means of finding purpose under the broader umbrella of serving others. So those are the three scientific strategies.
Well, thank you, Gleb. I really appreciate that, because those are definitely really powerful ways of definitely connecting and like having like a deeper experience of how your life is about something more than yourself. So you got the reflection, you got just the having like a deep community sense, like how you exist in relationship to other folks, and then how you exist in relationship to a cause or to a vision of the world that is bigger than yourself. So and that's definitely my experience as well. Like when I do those things, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm feeling more aligned with my purpose. Now I'm wondering, is science also like, so let's say somebody has done all those things. Let's say they're a regular meditator. Let's say they've got a strong sense of community. Let's say that they already know that there's a bunch of kind of meaningful things out there that they support, whether it's through donations or through volunteering, but they're still not feeling that there's this kind of one thing that they were put here to do. Is there anything in your book or in your awareness that can kind of help folks who are already doing a lot of purposeful things still don't feel like it's, you know, the end all be all, kind of the final kind of purpose of who they are?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. So I think a lot of those questioning and not realizing that end all and be all comes from lacking that broad aspiration. I think that's something that the science has really shown is very important, to develop that broad aspiration, because it sounds like the kind of people you're talking about are doing the everyday activities that would be more likely to contribute to a sense of meaning and purpose, but they haven't developed that broad aspiration that is shown by science to be needed for a sense of meaning and purpose, a really deep sense of purpose in their lives. And the book goes through specific exercises that help people develop that broad aspiration. It gives them some templates, it describes how to find and figure out their life goals, and guides them through reflecting on their life goals and figuring that out. That's a really important component of purpose, and thank you for highlighting that, Brandon. That's really important to develop that end goal, that end aim of what you're really about.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. So I want to move into some Q&A here in a little bit. But before I do, Gleb, I'd like to understand a little bit more about the need for science-based purpose discovery. Is it that some of the more traditional ways of, say, serving your religious community or kind of deepening your connection via spiritual practice, is it that those are no longer appropriate in 2015, or is it that there's a whole community of folks out there who just kind of don't identify with that but still need purpose? I mean, why is science coming to the rescue in some ways? Like, why is science involved in the purpose discussion when there are all these other kind of not scientific ways to kind of know yourself and to kind of achieve connection with your creator, or with your fellow man, or with a cause you're committed to? So why is science involved in this conversation?
I think that's a really great question. I think science is involved in this question to get at the root of what actually brings us purpose in life. So we have very many different traditions, and each one claims that it is the way. Generally, each one claims that it is the way and the only way to find purpose. And it says that all the other ways are not the ways to find purpose. Only my way, only our way is the way to find purpose. And science is based around questioning claims and finding what is the actual evidence for such claims. And for anyone who wants to have a really credible, evidence-based way of finding purpose, there are a lot of people who want to know that what they do is going to be the thing that's most likely to bring them to that sense of purpose. There are never any guarantees that one will find one's purpose. Like, no one can guarantee that, and anyone who can guarantee that to you, you should just turn and run. No one can guarantee that to you. But the question is, what can you rely on as the one method most likely, based on the evidence, based on the research, to help yourself find purpose in life? And that's relying on science, because science is the instrument that we as human beings have developed that makes it most likely for us to find the true path. And it doesn't exclude other paths. So as I mentioned, you can go traditional paths. There are definitely religious communities that help people self-reflect on their purpose. They give them community bonds and opportunities to volunteer. But they also add various other things that are not necessary. They're not needed. Now, you might like them and you might appreciate those other things, and then please go with that and you'll find your sense of purpose that way. But if you're looking for just the things that will help you get that sense of purpose, That's what the science is there for, to help people know what are the right ways to find that purpose. And that's what I'm here, and that's why I'm here, and that's what I'm about. I'm about bringing the science while also fully acknowledging that there are other ways of finding purpose that are also informed, that science shows they are not invalid, but they also have other things that are really not necessary. And they're also somewhat problematic when they claim they're the only ways of finding purpose in life.
Of course, of course. Thank you for that, Gleb, and I'm very much in agreement. So I work with a slightly different kind of definition of purpose, but I don't think it's that different. And the reason why I want to share with you, because like the fourth piece is basically what you're talking about right now, with kind of this distinction around kind of the context. So yeah, I talk about purpose as having kind of three core components. That there's this beingness, this kind of quality of consciousness. The thing that you were describing, like, I wake up and I'm asking myself, am I fulfilled? Am I doing things that are aligned? Like, it's just kind of this kind of felt sense of like who I am at my deepest level. And then there's kind of a more active component that I call talents. And these are just things that bring us alive, like these activities that just bring us alive. So, for me, it's like writing and coaching and it's public speaking and inspiring and just kind of, playing in this world of ideas and social change. Like when I'm doing that, like I'm on purpose. Like I'm on purpose on this whole call. Like I'm in right here in my wheelhouse where I want to be. And then the third piece is mission. And that has to do with this kind of vision of the world that you have, and then how you're going to combine your being, your optimal qualities, your optimal kind of states of consciousness, and the things that bring you alive to achieve something. So this kind of aspirational element that you talked about in the scientific definition. And the last piece, and I think this is the most controversial piece, because right now we're in this kind of battle of cosmologies. Like everyone has got a different idea about what is reality, and it's probably a good thing. But that purpose exists within a context. And so for maybe folks like me and you who've studied the classics and who play with science a lot, like we're aware that it's 2015 and that every claim needs to be tested and retested, and that we exist as part of this continuum of knowledge, this continuum of the scientific Western intellectual tradition. And so that's our context. Now, most folks, or I should say a lot of folks on our planet, maybe they learned some biology or some physics in high school, but that was kind of it. Like their relationship to the scientific tradition kind of stopped. And so their context is different. Their context is maybe just cultural, like they're growing up in some backwoods town someplace. Or it's religious, they grew up in a Christian or a Hindu family. And so it's not that they can't find purpose, it's that their purpose is going to be limited by the context. So like, for example, if somebody really believes that the Bible is like the final word on reality, their purpose can only operate within the confines of the Bible, meaning that like the worldview and the change and the vision that they're trying to create can't really incorporate any other truths. As you said, they stand for like a one singular truth. And so and that's fine, and I'll be the first to admit that even having a scientific only orientation is limiting, because if I'm just thinking about science and science only, I'm probably going to miss a lot of other things too. But that this is kind of where we get to the kind of the juicy parts of this conversation, because it's got political implications, economic implications. Like, can people who are poor, who can't eat, can they have purpose? Like if they're looking for their food for that day, is food their purpose, or are they just people without purpose? So there's all these different considerations, and this is kind of like the essence of what this call series is like, how do we understand all the related contexts to finding a living purpose? Because it's not just about the worldview that we operate in, it's about this whole world that we're a part of. Like I'm part of a bubble in Berkeley, California. You're part of some other kind of bubble in Ohio, and there's other people who are parts of different bubbles. And it's like understanding that purpose has to take into consideration the idea of context. That for me to say my purpose is to eradicate poverty, that presumes my context. and same thing for you or anybody else. So I just want to thank you for fleshing that out, because that's kind of very much how I see it. I see it as like context is a very rarely addressed but very important aspect of the purpose conversation. Like we got to know what we're a part of, you know.
Yeah, I think that's really important to know what we're a part of, and I think it's important to recognize that whatever the context is, the three kind of strategies work the same way: kind of self-reflection, building community, and serving others. You can do that as someone who is poor and hungry, and you can still serve others, and you can still build community, and you can still self-reflect on that fact. I mean, you can't get much worse than the prisoners in the concentration camps that Frankl studied. I think comparing the typical poor and hungry person to a prisoner in the concentration camp in the Holocaust, you know, you gotta give the poor person who's hungry much more chance of having a better life. But people in the concentration camps were still able to find their sense of purpose, and the ones who did were still able to thrive. And I think that's the crucial thing. You know, if we can help people who are poor and hungry develop a sense of purpose, they can thrive just as well, and even better because of their context, not being in a concentration camp, than the prisoners in the Holocaust concentration camps. So I think it is really important to be aware of the context, but also be aware that the three broad strategies will work regardless of any context, and to honor the context that each individual is in, and help people learn about the strategies, techniques that they can use to find that sense of meaning and purpose in life, and help them thrive. I think that's the crucial thing.
I like that. I like that. So Gleb, I want to move to some Q&A. So I've got some interesting questions that have come in. So this first one is from Jennifer in Seattle. And she asks, what should I do to find my purpose using science? So I assume what she's asking is like, if there's something that she could change about her day or about her week, like what should she start to do differently? Like if there are a few things that she should start to shift in order to bring more purpose into her life?
Sure. So the first thing I'd suggest is probably the easiest thing, if we're talking about easy things, is to do journaling about your sense of purpose, starting daily. So some prompts would be, and this is informed by research in psychology, what kind of things do you sense as bringing you purpose in life? What do you associate with purpose? What kind of activities in your daily life do you do that help bring you a sense of purpose? Notice those activities and try to do more of the activities that help you experience a sense of purpose. Then from those activities, learn about the kind of things that help bring you that sense of purpose, and try to identify your broad aspirations from those everyday activities. So trying to identify that broad aspiration is the end outcome that you want to move towards, Jennifer, because having that broad aspiration, that will help motivate you to find and figure out the sense of purpose in your life. And so I mentioned that you can check out my book, Find Your Purpose Using Science. If you go to intentionalinsights.org on the About page, there's also a link to a free online class I developed that has a video workshop and other resources to help you find your sense of purpose using science-based strategies if you are unable to afford the book at this time. So just keep that in mind as a strategy as well.
Great. Well, thank you, Gleb. I really appreciate that. And just a reminder, all the folks listening, you can just go ahead and enter your question here in the right-hand side of the group chat or on the Facebook page. I'm monitoring both. I've got another one coming in from Carla in Tampa. And she says, I think I know my life's purpose, but I still can't decide whether or not to leave my boyfriend. So I guess maybe what she's asking is like can purpose help you get clearer on your romantic life?
Yeah, It's a really important question, and I think a lot of people have challenges with the relationships that are what the research on this topic calls cached, kind of cached relationships, just like cached computers. They're just kind of remaining, just going on and on and on, and they're not being cleared, and people are not able to see the world around them clearly, to evaluate reality clearly. And so that's one of the things I talk about in the blogs at intentionalinsights.org. So the question of how to use purpose to help yourself answer this question is actually simpler than you might think. What you would do is think about your broad aspiration. What is your broad aspiration? And then think about whether being with your boyfriend fits that broad aspiration. Does it fit that broad aspiration? Do you see your boyfriend being there long-term and being a component of your life as someone who fits that broad aspiration or not? Imagine what kind of alternatives you have available. Being single, having another boyfriend. Do you think you might find someone who is a better match for you than the current boyfriend you have and who would more match your broad aspirations in life? If that's the case, and if you think that's a realistic scenario, then I would suggest that you bite the bullet and take the short-term pain of leaving your boyfriend. If after that reflection you decide that your boyfriend is the best fit for your long-term aspirations and for your life purpose, then stay with your boyfriend.
I like that. I use a very similar kind of, I basically give the same advice. Like once you have that purpose statement in hand, it's like weighing the options. And it's like, does this serve my purpose? Like is staying in this relationship or staying in this job or keeping this behavior or living in this apartment or staying in this town, is it going to move me closer to living the life of purpose I want? And it's like this scale, like the Lady of Justice scale, like your purpose holds the center, and basically it says, yeah, actually, even though it's going to be uncomfortable, maybe it still serves my purpose more, either to leave him or to stay with him. So for me, I've got kind of some kind of deep bodily resonance that shows up when I ask that question. Like there seems to be some kind of central nervous system firing that occurs in my body when I when I kind of ask my purpose, like, does this serve me, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really crucial question. That's what a lot of research has found. When people do things that are related to their long-term aspirations, they are much more emotionally motivated and cognitively motivated to do them, and they are much more able to accomplish their goals. So no wonder you have that resonance. That's what the psychology suggests is supposed to happen when you actually do the things that help you move toward your long-term goals. So yeah, that sense is really research-based.
Great. So Gleb, we need to wrap up, but I want to give folks an opportunity to learn more about you, and so that they can play more with these science and research-based strategies to find their life's purpose, and how they can learn more about you and the book. And I know you've got some other stuff coming up, like a kind of a soft launch coming up that I know you want to talk about as well. So Gleb, how can folks best connect with you and learn more about your work and your book?
Yeah, so great question. So the best way that they can connect with me is if they go to www.intentionalinsights.org, and they can click on the contact form and they can contact me that way. They can also email me personally, and my email is gleb@intentionalinsights.org. So again, that's gleb@intentionalinsights.org. You can check out the About page of Intentional Insights to learn about the resources, to learn about the blogs, the videos, the work, the online class. The book is available on Amazon for pre-order right now. Find Your Purpose Using Science. Now, what I wanted to offer as a special bonus to the viewers of this program is to participate in the free pre-sale period. So from July 9th to July 13th, for the viewers of this program, I want you to know that the book will be available for free on Kindle, on Amazon, and just go on July 9th there, download it. It's going to be free. So that's going to be a special gift I want to give as the first guest speaker on the Purpose Revolution phone call. So I hope you will take advantage of that free offer. After that, it will be paid, so it won't cost that much. It will cost something like $5, but you can get it free, and it's better to get it free. So yeah, that's what I would suggest you do.
Well, great, Gleb. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And you know, I definitely learned a lot and feel just deeply edified that there's another person on this planet who is beating the purpose drum and who's got the research and the science to back it up and is still doing his own original research. It's great. I mean, I know you're a great popularizer of the science, but you're also a scientist. You're also doing it, and that I think that goes a long way, because you're not just talking about it. You're not like me. I just talk about it. You are actually doing it. So I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing. And also for the folks out there who want to stay a part of this purpose revolution, as part of this purpose conversation, please join the 21-Day Purpose Challenge. And you can find out about that at 21daypurposechallenge.org. Register. It's a free 21-day program. You'll get to learn everything there is to know about science. It's a progression, one exercise a day for 21 days. It's broken up into 3 modules that takes you deep into your purpose, helps you understand the obstacles you currently have to live in your purpose, gives you tools to communicate your purpose, helps you create a ritual so that, as Gleb was saying, every morning you get to start your day on purpose. And then helps you build a purpose project, so a way to actually live your purpose in relationship to your community. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's just in your social circle. You get to create a project that just allows you to live your essence, to do the things that you love to do, and create the world that you want to live in. And then the last piece is you're building a team. You're building a team to help you get it done. So this is a really powerful program. It's free. There's a lot of great experts participating. Gleb is one of them. We've already announced 6 other featured teachers for this program. Like I said, it's totally free. It's part of our commitment to create a world where 7.3 billion people know their purpose, are living their purpose, and have created careers that support them in being purposeful. So that's, like, if you want to take it deeper, you can engage that way. You can also go to planetpurpose.org to kind of just find out about the general movement. So there's a declaration, as I mentioned, and then a whole page on the science of purpose, and then the 21-day purpose challenge. So Gleb, thank you again for joining us today. Thank you everyone else watching now and who's going to watch this later.
Thank you
so happy to have
inviting me.
You got it, Gleb. You got it. Thank you. So happy to be part of this conversation and talking with all of you. We're part of something really special here. This is a unique moment in human history, and I'm happy that you're with us. So take care, everyone. Bye.